Before we begin, I want you to take a deep breath and let this truth settle into your heart. You are not forgotten, and this is not the end of your story. There is a divine reason you're here right now, listening to these words. Maybe you've been through a season where you lost more than you thought you could handle. Maybe you've been walking through silence, through pain, through shattered pieces that you've tried so hard to hold together. And maybe, just maybe, you've wondered if God still sees you, if He still has a plan for you, if what the enemy stole can ever be restored. But what if I told you that right here, right now, heaven is declaring a different narrative over your life? This message is not just a speech, it's a reminder from God's heart to yours. It's a holy interruption to your doubt, a gentle but powerful voice calling you back to truth. Not the truth the world gives, not the lie the enemy repeats, but the eternal truth that what the enemy meant for evil, God is turning around for your good. And not just a little good, overflowing, abundant, pressed down and shaken together kind of good. God is not done, He's not distant, and He's certainly not defeated. As you listen, don't just hear these words, receive them. Let them become the confirmation you've been praying for in the dark. Let them be the spark that lights your hope again, because what's coming is greater than what you've lost, and everything the enemy thought he stole from you, your peace, your purpose, your voice, your destiny, is already being reclaimed by the God who restores all things. So stay with me until the end. Don't miss a single word, because by the time this message is finished, you won't just be inspired, you'll be reawakened. And you'll know, without a doubt, that your God is still writing your story, and He's about to turn the page. The enemy is never truly victorious. He may boast in your moment of weakness, he may mock during your season of loss, and he may celebrate when you feel crushed under the weight of life. But no matter how loud his laughter echoes, no matter how convincing his temporary triumph appears, his so-called victory is always an illusion. What he sees as conquest, heaven sees as a setup for restoration. What he calls destruction, God calls preparation. And what the enemy believes he has taken, God knows how to return in greater measure. Pressed down, shaken together, and running over, the enemy may strike, but he cannot finish what God has started. Too often, the people of God look at their situation through the wrong lens. They see the damage, the delay, the silence, and the suffering, and they assume that defeat has come. They listen to the whisper of the enemy saying, "It's over for you," and they believe the lie. But just because you see rubble does not mean the foundation is destroyed. Just because you feel empty doesn't mean God has stopped pouring. And just because you're in a valley doesn't mean you're forgotten. The enemy has always worked through deception, through half-truths twisted into hopelessness. He works not by truth, but by fear, and he thrives in the shadows of your uncertainty. But even in the darkest night, heaven does not panic. God never wrings his hands in worry when the enemy attacks. He does not retreat when opposition rises. He does not reverse his promises because of a storm. He is not intimidated by the thief because he is the creator. He is not startled by the setback because he is the one who declares the end from the beginning. The enemy cannot undo what God has spoken, nor can he erase what grace has sealed. Second, even if it looks like the enemy has taken ground, he never owns what he walks on. The territory still belongs to God. The promise still belongs to his people. The inheritance is still waiting for the faithful to rise again and possess it. You must understand that the enemy can only touch what is allowed, and even then, only for a time. He may have access to the moment, but he has no claim to the outcome. He may have touched your health, your relationships, your finances, or your peace, but that does not mean he has won. He simply does not have the power to write the final chapter. His reach is limited, his days are numbered, and his efforts are powerless against a heart anchored in faith. When the enemy thinks he has stolen your joy, he does not realize that your joy is rooted in something eternal. When he believes he has broken your spirit, he forgets that the Spirit of the living God dwells within you. And when he thinks he has delayed your purpose, he fails to grasp that divine timing cannot be tampered with by darkness. There is a divine irony in how God works. What the enemy intends for evil, God uses for good. What was meant to break you, builds you. What was taken from you, teaches you. And what you lost in one season becomes the seed for greater gain in another. That is why the enemy can never truly be victorious. He plays his hand, but God already knows the end game. The enemy moves, but heaven has the master plan. And every time the enemy strikes, he is unknowingly participating in a story that will lead back to God's glory. His every attempt to destroy you becomes the stage for your comeback, and your testimony becomes the evidence of his failure. The enemy cannot win when you belong to the one who holds all power, all wisdom, and all authority. His weapons may form, but they will never prosper. His lies may linger, but they will never define you. You are not walking toward defeat. You are walking through a battlefield that has already been claimed by victory. God works even in the ruins. When the dust settles after life's most painful battles, it may seem like everything familiar has crumbled. You look around and see broken pieces of dreams you once held close, fragments of prayers that feel unanswered, and moments that echo with silence where you once felt God's presence. It is easy in these moments to believe the enemy has won, that the loss is too great, that nothing can be rebuilt. But what we often fail to see is that while we mourn what was lost, God has already stepped into the ruins and begun to build something greater than what existed before. In the natural world, ruins are often viewed as endings. They're remnants of what once stood strong, now shattered by time or destruction. But in the kingdom of God, ruins are the beginning of divine restoration. God does not abandon you when your world collapses. He draws closer. His spirit hovers over the broken places, his hands carefully collecting what seems forgotten by others. The enemy may have knocked down walls, but God lays new foundations where surrender meets faith. He is the God of beginnings, not only at creation, but in every season of devastation. He does not need a full structure to start again. He only needs your willingness to trust that he is still at work. It is in the ruins that God whispers the deepest truth to your soul. It is in those quiet, broken places where your strength fails and your plans fall apart that God reveals the beauty of his plans. When all is stripped away, he shows you what truly matters. His presence, his voice, his hand guiding you step by step. The enemy may have tried to bury your hope under the weight of disappointment, but God uses that very pressure to press out a new kind of faith. A faith not built on comfort, but on conviction. A faith not rooted in what you see, but in who he is. God's blueprint for restoration never mirrors the past. It's designed for a greater future. What you thought was the end is only the starting point for something more eternal. The ruins become the testimony. The rubble becomes sacred ground. The enemy may have broken things apart, but he has no power to keep them from being built again. Not when the master builder is in charge. Not when the one who speaks life into dry bones is on the scene. He does not need permission from the enemy to begin again. He does not wait for circumstances to improve. He begins his work in the very place the enemy meant to destroy you. Even now, while you may feel forgotten or abandoned, heaven is not silent. Angels are on assignment, doors are being shaped, roads are being cleared, and the very place that once looked like a grave will become a garden. The ruins of your situation are not wasted, they are not meaningless. They are the raw material God uses to craft a story that brings him glory and builds your soul. The moments when everything fell apart were not the conclusion, they were the construction site. And though you may not yet see the full picture, you must believe that God is present in the process. He does not leave you in the rubble. He walks into it with you and begins to restore, redeem, and resurrect everything that the enemy thought was gone forever. God is not intimidated by brokenness. He specializes in it, and he is already working in the ruins of your life to bring forth something eternal, beautiful, and filled with purpose. Your pain has never gone unnoticed. In the silence of your nights, in the quiet corners of your heart where words fail and tears speak louder than language, God has been watching, not as a distant observer, but as a compassionate Father who feels every ache, every wound, and every hidden cry. The enemy may try to convince you that your suffering has been overlooked, that heaven turned its face while you struggled through heartbreak, betrayal, loss, or confusion. But the truth, grounded in the very nature of God, is this: not a single moment of your pain has been ignored or forgotten. Pain has a way of isolating you, making you believe you are alone in the storm. You carry burdens that others cannot see. You smile through agony and pretend to be strong when everything inside feels shattered. And still, God sees it all. Not just the visible tears, but the internal wrestlings, the questions you've been too afraid to ask aloud, the grief you've carried quietly, the disappointments that have chipped away at your faith over time. Nothing is hidden from the one who formed you. He not only sees your pain, but he feels it, he shares in it, and in ways you don't always understand, he is using it. Pain in the hands of God is never pointless. What the enemy meant to use to crush you, God is shaping into something redemptive. The moments of suffering that seem to strip you of your strength are being transformed into sacred ground where endurance is born, character is formed, and deeper intimacy with God is forged. Even when you didn't feel his presence, he was there, preserving you, surrounding you, and preparing something far greater than the suffering itself. God has a history of meeting people in their pain. The Bible is filled with stories of those who cried out in their darkest hour and were met by the mercy of a God who did not turn away. Hannah wept for a child and was heard. Job cried out in his suffering and was restored. David poured out his sorrow through psalms and found strength in the Lord. Jesus himself, the man of sorrows, bore the full weight of human pain on the cross, and because of that, he understands suffering more deeply than anyone ever could. You do not serve a Savior who is unfamiliar with your wounds. You serve one who was wounded for you and now walks with you in yours. Even in the moments when you thought your prayers were unanswered, they were not unheard. They were caught in the hands of a loving God who responds not always with immediate relief, but with eternal perspective. He does not rush healing because he knows that what is being produced in you through this season is worth far more than temporary comfort. The very pain that tried to define you is being rewritten by his promises. And when restoration comes, and it will not simply erase the pain, it will give it purpose. You will look back not just with relief that the suffering ended, but with gratitude that God was present in it, using every tear as a seed for something beautiful. Others may have overlooked your pain, but your God never did. The enemy may have tried to use it against you, but your God is using it for you. And though the night may have been long, joy will come, not just as a fleeting feeling, but as a powerful witness to the faithfulness of the one who never left your side. Your pain has never gone unnoticed, and it never will be. Restoration is deeper than replacement. In the world system, when something is stolen or broken, the goal is to replace it with something similar, something of equal value, something that looks like what was lost. But in God's kingdom, restoration is not about simply giving you back what the enemy took. It's about giving you more than what was lost, something purified, elevated, and stamped with his glory. When God restores, he doesn't rewind time, he redeems it. He doesn't just return to you the past, he transforms your future through what you endured. This is why it's so important not to settle for a worldly mindset about healing, breakthrough, or recovery. The enemy will have you believe that the best you can hope for is to go back to how things were before. He wants you to believe that what was broken can never truly be whole again, that what was taken is gone for good, and that the best you can do is survive the aftermath. But God never intended for you to simply survive. He created you to thrive. And in his plan for your life, the aftermath becomes the altar. The brokenness becomes the birthplace of power, and the very thing the enemy meant for harm becomes the tool God uses to bless you beyond what you could have imagined. When Job was restored, God didn't just give him back what he had lost, he gave him double. He didn't just return the cattle and land and health, he returned them with increase, with a depth of revelation, and with a legacy far greater than before the trial. That's the kind of restoration God offers. It's not cosmetic, it's not temporary, it's not a surface-level replacement to make you feel better for a moment. It is a complete rebuilding of your soul, your purpose, and your path. And sometimes, what God restores doesn't look like what was lost. Because He's not just returning things, He's making them new. He's not handing you the same dreams the enemy tried to steal. He's giving you better ones. He's not reviving the old joy that was broken. He's producing joy that is unshakable. He's not mending relationships to simply mimic the past. He's teaching you love that is deeper, wiser, and rooted in grace. This kind of restoration can't be manufactured, it can't be rushed, and it can't be explained by natural reasoning. It's holy, it's sacred, and it's shaped by divine hands that know the full picture, even when all you see is the pain. Many people think restoration is about getting back on your feet, but in truth it's about being placed on a higher ground than you ever stood before. The pit you were thrown into becomes the very soil where purpose grows. The tears you cried become the river that waters new hope. The silence you endured becomes the space where God speaks the loudest. Restoration from heaven is not a simple return to normal. It's a transformation into glory. It is a declaration that what the enemy tried to use against you will now be used by God to elevate you. The pain, the process, and even the waiting all play a role in this restoration. Because through it all, God isn't just fixing your circumstances, He's shaping your character. He's healing your heart, He's expanding your faith. And when He's done, what you receive won't just feel like recovery, it will feel like resurrection. This is the power of divine restoration. It digs deeper than what was taken and brings back something that no enemy can touch again. What God restores, He seals. What He rebuilds, He strengthens. And what He returns, He multiplies. Time is no barrier to divine recompense. In human thinking, time often becomes the greatest thief. We believe that once years have passed, once seasons have shifted, and once opportunities have slipped through our hands, there is no way to recover what has been lost. We look back and mourn wasted time, missed chances, and delayed blessings, believing the enemy has taken what can never be returned. But the truth is, while time may confine human understanding, it does not limit God. The Creator of time is not subject to it. He stands outside of time and moves through it with sovereign authority. What seems lost to you is still accessible to Him. What looks impossible by the clock is still possible by His hand. God is not hurried, nor is He ever late. He works according to purpose, not pressure. The enemy may have convinced you that too much time has passed for restoration to occur. He may whisper that you're too old, too behind, or too far gone to ever recover what was stolen from you. But heaven does not follow a calendar the way man does. God's promises are not expired by delay. They are preserved by His word, sustained by His character, and fulfilled in His perfect timing. He is never in a rush because He knows that true restoration isn't about when, it's about how and why. And when He restores, it's never too early and it's never too late. It's always right on time. The years you think are gone are not forgotten. They are not wasted in God's eyes. He counts every moment. He remembers every season of endurance, every period of waiting, every hour you prayed and saw no answer. Even when you felt stuck, He was moving behind the scenes. Even when you were still, He was aligning things in the Spirit. Even when it looked like nothing was happening, heaven was working on your behalf. Time did not delay your destiny, it refined it. And what the enemy thought would be your ruin, God is turning into a runway for your restoration. There are stories throughout Scripture where people believed they were too late for breakthrough, only for God to show up in a way that defied time. Sarah laughed when she was told she'd bear a child in her old age, but God was not restricted by her age or by her disbelief. Lazarus had been dead for 4 days when Jesus arrived, but Jesus was not late. He was on divine schedule. The thief on the cross found redemption in his final moments because eternity doesn't measure grace by the ticking of a clock. These examples remind us that divine recompense is not held hostage by time. God restores in His own way, on His own timeline, and with a purpose far beyond our comprehension. You may feel like years have been stolen, years of peace, years of joy, years of promise. You may feel like you're living in the aftermath of missed seasons. But God is not just returning what was lost. He's redeeming time itself. He's making up for the years the locusts have eaten. He's gathering all the fragments and turning them into something beautiful. His restoration doesn't just compensate, it overflows. It doesn't just balance the scale, it tilts it in your favor. It doesn't just fill what was empty, it multiplies what was broken. So don't be discouraged by how long it's been. Don't believe the lie that it's too late. With God, it's never too late for a fresh beginning, a new chapter, a divine turnaround. The enemy may have stolen your time, but God is the one who redeems it. And what's coming will be worth every second you waited, every prayer you whispered, and every tear you cried. Time cannot stop what God has promised. Your story is not over, it's being rewritten. The enemy may have tried to convince you that the damage in your life is permanent, that the broken chapters cannot be repaired, that the detours and disappointments are signs that your best days are behind you. But God does not end your story where the enemy intended. He does not close the book on you because of a mistake, a failure, or a season of pain. What the enemy tried to use as a final sentence, God uses as a comma. He interrupts the narrative of defeat and begins to write a new ending, one that testifies of His grace, His mercy, and His unfailing love. When you look at the pages of your life, you may see moments you wish you could erase, times of loss, regret, or silence. You may feel like the enemy has already written his version of your story in bold letters. But God is not intimidated by those chapters. He is not limited by your past. In fact, it is often the pages stained with the most tears that God uses as the foundation for the most powerful testimony. He takes what the enemy thought would define you in shame and turns it into a monument of His faithfulness. He does not just edit your story, He breathes new life into it. There are times when God allows the narrative to pause so that your heart can catch up with His purpose. What feels like delay is often divine redirection. What feels like silence is often preparation for the next chapter that's about to unfold. And when you least expect it, He begins writing again, not with ink of condemnation, but with words of hope. Your identity is not found in what was lost, broken, or stolen. It is found in the author who holds the pen. The enemy may have tried to scribble lies over your destiny, but God's truth cannot be erased. He does not consult your past to determine your future. He speaks life where the enemy declared death. Many people assume that once they've gone too far, failed too many times, or walked through too much pain, their story is beyond redemption. But God specializes in rewriting what others thought was finished. He takes the ruined, the forgotten, the cast aside, and He begins a new work. He doesn't waste anything, not even the pain. What you thought would be the end of your influence, your purpose, your voice, becomes the very reason others find hope. Because when they see how God restored you, they begin to believe He can restore them too. Even now, the Spirit of God is at work within you, stirring your heart, healing your wounds, preparing you for the unfolding of the next part of your story. You may not know how it all fits together, but He does. You may feel uncertain of the path, but He sees the destination. And He is faithful to complete what He started. He doesn't abandon His work halfway through. He doesn't forget the promises He made to you. If you still have breath, then your story is still being written, and the chapters that lie ahead carry more weight, more purpose, and more glory than anything behind you. Don't close the book on yourself. Don't believe that your story ends in disappointment or loss. The very places the enemy tried to use against you are becoming the places where God's power will shine the brightest. The scars you carry are not signs of failure. They are signs that you survived what the enemy thought would destroy you. And now God is turning the page. What's coming is not a repetition of the past. It's a divine rewrite filled with redemption, restoration, and a glory that could only come from God Himself. As we draw this message to a close, let this truth settle deep within your spirit. God is not only aware of everything the enemy has tried to steal from you, but He is actively working to restore, redeem, and multiply it beyond your imagination. You have not been forgotten. You are not abandoned. Every tear, every delay, every loss, and every battle was never wasted. In the heavenly realm, nothing slips through God's hands. What may have seemed like destruction was actually the beginning of divine reconstruction. What looked like a setback was a setup for something far greater, more eternal, and more powerful than you could have ever planned for yourself. The enemy thought he had the final say. He believed that if he could steal your joy, your peace, your purpose, or your voice, then he could stop the plan of God. But what he underestimated is that you belong to the one who never loses a battle. You are in covenant with the restorer of all things. And when God restores, He does not return things as they were. He transforms them into something more glorious. Your story is being rewritten by His hand. Your past is not your prison. It is the place where the foundation of your victory was being laid. If you're still in the ruins, remember that God works even there. If you feel that time has stolen too much, believe that God can redeem the years. If you're carrying pain that no one sees, take comfort that heaven has seen every moment. And if you're questioning how your life will ever recover, hold on to the promise that your restoration is already in motion. The enemy is not winning, God is just not finished. You may not see the full picture yet, but trust this, restoration is not a concept, it is your inheritance. God is not going to replace what was stolen with a copy. He's going to give you something new, something sacred, something refined through the fire. And when He is done, even the enemy will tremble, not at your strength, but at the evidence of God's hand upon your life. He will know that He touched something holy and He lost. So rise, not in fear, but in faith. Stand, not in defeat, but in expectation. Walk forward, not toward survival, but toward restoration. Because what's ahead of you is greater than what's behind you. What's coming cannot be stopped, and the glory of your story will be that everything the enemy thought he stole, God returned and made it even better. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak into your spirit today. It has been an honor to share these words with hearts that hunger for hope and faith. I pray you leave this message not just inspired, but transformed. May the Lord bless you, strengthen you, and keep you. May He give you the eyes to see what's being rebuilt in the unseen. And may He fill you with unwavering faith that your comeback is already unfolding. Stay strong, stay grounded in His word, and never forget God restores, God multiplies, and God never loses. God bless you, and thank you.